it's a lot of people have different opinions of what Deion Sanders says about what he looks for in offensive linemen and defensive linemen. In case you don't know, Colorado head coach Deion Sanders says for his offensive linemen and what he says smart players, he wants them from two-parent households. But his defensive linemen, he wants them from single mothers. They struggling. And let me tell you why he dead wrong for that. Because Deion wants to exploit young men who have emotional trauma, who have emotional and financial problems, growing up without their dad, who are channeling their anger and their hurt on the football field, but those are the kinds he looked like, so he can exploit that aggression and that hurt and that pain and that heartbreak on the football field for some wins. And people are applauding Deion Sanders for that. And he said it on that platform with all those laughs. Deion Sanders was dead ass wrong for saying that, but it exposes how he feels. He feels like a lot of other coaches feel. They like to exploit these young, magically melanated athletes. And Deion admitted he wants to exploit the hurt and pain and frustration and trauma that young men feel who grew up without their fathers. He want to use that and exploit that hurt on the football field because they starving. They don't have much. They're longing for their dad. He wants to use and exploit that, and he laughs and thinks it's funny.
All right, guys, so Black Twitter is upset with Deion Sanders once again. And some of you guys may be asking, well, why is Black Twitter upset with Deion Sanders? Well, it's just the same reason they always get upset with successful black people who tell the truth. It's because they hate the truth, right? They don't like the truth, okay? When you tell Black Twitter the truth, especially when it comes from a successful black person, right? When it's something that, is uncomfortable, it's an uncomfortable truth for black people to hear, they can't stand it, right? They can't stand it. They already don't like Deion Sanders because they see him as a race traitor, right? And the reason why they see him as a race traitor is because Deion Sanders used to coach at what they call a HBCU, a historically black college or university. And he took that school from basically nothing to a football powerhouse relatively for their conference, okay? And then he took that success and he went to Colorado, which is a predominantly white institution. Again, these are the words that the woke revolutionaries use. These are not my words, right? This is what they, say all the time. They debate about black schools versus white schools. That is actually a legitimate debate in the black community. And they got mad at him, right? Because they said he was a sellout. He sold out to the white man. Now, what's funny is that was a lose-lose situation for Deion, okay? And the reason why is because if Colorado does not hire Deion Sanders or, D1 college university, a major college football school, doesn't hire a black coach, then that's evidence of systemic racism, right? When they do hire a black coach, Deion Sanders is a sellout for taking the job, right? So regardless, they're going to be pissed off no matter what, okay? And like I said, they're pissed off once again because Deion made some comments about what he looks for when he's recruiting certain positions in football. For example, recruiting a quarterback versus recruiting an offensive lineman versus recruiting a defensive lineman, right? He has certain things that he looks for, intangibles, okay, in certain players when recruiting for certain positions, something that anybody who has ever played football before, ever been in a football locker room should know, right? And it's kind of common sense. But again, to the wokes, it was offensive because they said that Deion Sanders was playing off of stereotypes, and they also don't like the fact that he said this in front of white men, right? That's also what they don't like. So without further ado, I'm going to actually go ahead and play the comments, and then we're going to get into some of the reactions. Take a look.
More and more and more.
We have different attributes: smart, tough, fast, disciplined with character.
Yep.
We're looking at now quarterbacks are different.
Yeah.
We want mother, father, dual parent.
Mm-hmm.
We want that kid to be 3, 5 and up because he's got to be smart.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad decisions off the field at all, because he has to be a leader of men. It's so many different attributes in what we look for when we see a quarterback. And you would love a coach's son. Somewhere that the coaches coached him, and I'm not going down my road. I see you smiling because
I know who your quarterback is right now.
He's talking about my son. I didn't just build a template for my son, but that's what really we look for in quarterbacks. Different positions are different. Like O-lineman, I look for dual parent homes,
right?
A strong father that they adhered to,
right?
Smart kid, at least 3.3. and above.
You're also describing Hurts.
Yeah,
as
tough.
Well. I mean,
physical. I mean, offensive lineman. Defensive lineman is totally opposite.
what do you mean?
Single mama, trying to get it. He's on free lunch. I mean, like, I'm talking about just trying to make it. He trying to rescue mama. Like, mama barely made the flight.
Trying to get out the mud.
And I want him to just go get it. It's a whole different attributes that you look for in different positions, and we have that stuff just chronicled. We know what we want, and we go get it.
Deion Sanders here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Yeah, so for anybody who's ever played football before, what Deion Sanders said, again, it should be no surprise in regards to what coaches are looking for when they're recruiting athletes for certain positions, right? Because different positions require different intangibles, okay? They require different levels of intelligence, of emotion, of leadership, of just general understanding of the game and how to play the game. But this is not how the wokes interpreted these comments, right? The way they interpret these comments, I'm going to show you guys how they interpret it. I'm going to play this skit here from Drewski that I thought to be absolutely hilarious, but it is probably a good representation of how the wokes interpreted Deion Sanders' comments. Take a look.
God damn it, he's running motion. It's Aaron! Coach, what do you think about the kid, though? Rashad Johnson, he's your best player.
Kid's got bad ego problems. He's cocky as shit. I'll tell you what, he's got daddy problems, and there's no dad at home. That fucker strong as a monkey, I'll tell you that. He sucks in the classroom. I'll tell you who you need to look at. I got a kid, Hunter Schuessler. White quarterback. Who doesn't want that? American dream. Not ass athletic, but the kid is a great listener. Mom's in the booster club. Both parents at home.
Still married.
For example, let's look at the quarterback position. Well, what does the quarterback position require? Well, it requires, again, leadership, emotional control, intelligence. You got to be able to identify defenses. You have to be able to set up your plays and offensive scheme based off what you're saying from the defense. In some situations, you got to be able to call plays. You got to be organized. You have to be emotionally controlled, okay? You can't play with your emotions, okay? You can't be too up. You can't be too down. You have to be consistent and analytical. And all these traits and attributes that you're generally going to get from kids that come from a two-parent household doesn't mean you can't get it from kids that come from a single-parent household. But just in general, if you're a child that comes from a two-parent household, you're more likely, okay, to have a higher GPA, to just, generally speaking, just do better with, academics, exercises, and things that require intelligence. It is what it is, okay? Again, it might sound controversial, but that is the benefit, okay? You also have a father in the house who shows you how to be a leader. You have a leader of men in the house in front of you to show you how to lead men and how to be a leader. All these things are benefits for a quarterback to have. Okay, same thing with offensive linemen. People don't realize this, but for example, playing a position like center on the offensive line, you require some of the same intangibles. This is why Deion Sanders said, for my offensive lineman, I look for two-parent households. Again, doesn't mean that you can't have a great quarterback or a great offensive lineman that comes from a single mother household. Okay, that doesn't mean that that's impossible. He's just saying, generally speaking, you get these intangibles from kids that come from these types of households, right? Now, when it comes to talking about defensive end, which is defensive line, let's be real. It doesn't require as much intelligence, and you don't need to be as emotionally controlled, right? If anything, you have a guy that is really trying to get it, right? That's, his whole life, he's been, trying to get it out the mud, trying to feed the fam, and he plays with anger, he plays with passion. That is going to be more beneficial for a position like that, right? That is why Deion Sanders says that is what he looks for. It is what it is. Okay? Oh, man, he's exploiting emotional trauma. I don't give a damn, right? I don't give a damn if that's what he's exploiting. That's just what's required for the position. Again, doesn't mean that good defensive linemen can't have two-parent households. It just means generally this is what we want to see, right? This is what we want to see for our defensive linemen. It is what it is. Again, a lot of coaches think this way. It's not controversial at all. Like, for example, listen to Emmanuel Acho, who played in the NFL, talk about his experience and a coach questioning him about his background and whether or not he would be a good fit for the team. Take a look.
Deion Sanders is wild. Did y'all hear what he said? He said when he recruits a quarterback, he wants them to come from a two-point parent home, good decision makers. But when he recruits a D lineman, He wants them single mamas, free lunch type. That sounds crazy on face value. Let me tell you all a story. I was coming out of college, NFL Combine. You meet with 32 billionaires. I'm sitting with a certain team. I will not tell you the team. I'll just say they are a South region-based football team. The general manager, he says, Emmanuel, you come from a two-parent home, right? I'm like, yes, sir, I do. Dad's has his PhD in psychology. My mom is working on her doctorate in nurse practitioning. He says, what's the hardest thing you've ever been through? I said, well, the hardest thing I've ever been through is probably trying to live a life above reproach, just trying to stay consistent with my character each and every day. He said, anybody ever been shot? I said, no, sir, don't know anybody ever been shot. Grandma's still alive, parents still alive. He looks at me, says, you're not a great fit for our team. You'll be a great leader one day. Wish you much success, but you're not a great fit here. Essentially, he was saying my life had been too good for them to want to draft me. They obviously did not draft me. He got fired a few years later. So what Deion said, teams definitely think, college or pro. But it's the first time I've ever heard it said out loud.
Yeah, so again, I thought this was common sense, right? I thought that this was common sense, but apparently not, okay? The woke's upset because this is the first time in their life they've ever heard something real like this, right? For example, you got this person that says, a bunch of white folks kikied and it didn't give him a bit of pause. Yuck. Again, this is not a race thing, right? Again, you're going to get the same things when it comes from a white person that's raised in that type of environment, right? Which happens, okay? Yeah, you're going to look for the same things. This is not a race thing, okay? But again, they want to make it a race issue when it's really not. You can have his ass. It's F him over here forever and ever. Amen. Quote, I remember a couple of my students' parents told me I was the only black male figure their kids interacted with, and I was happy to be there, but it was also pressure. So many people can use some support, but then end up in the care of people with mindsets like this. Unfortunately, this is how a majority of coaches evaluate his own effing son, not even from a dual household. Yeah, but he also put the qualifier in there, right? That, again, this is what we look for. He didn't say that this is what you have to have. Okay, you need to be smart. And he also said he prefers his QBs to be coached, okay, their fathers to be coaches, right? Which, again, is something that is again, kind of commonplace as well, too, right? Yeah, so that being said, I really don't understand the backlash here. A lot of these people are just upset because he said this around white people, right? They're upset because the white people were laughing and, yada, 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 right? But Deion Sanders has been an NFL Hall of Famer. He successfully turned around a bad HBCU football program, okay, turned him into a powerhouse. Now he's going to Colorado, okay, and that's a bad program as of right now. And if I was a bet man, I would bet he's probably going to turn that around as well too, okay? It's just a shame that when black men, or black people in general, it's not even a black man thing, when black people become successful, okay, and they show you this is why I'm successful, and the why it's controversial, it makes black people uncomfortable. There's an instant reaction where they just get so triggered and hurt and upset, and they essentially try to ostracize that person and say, oh, well, I'm done with him, right? He's less black because he is basically telling the truth, right? About, how he does his job and how he recruits. Okay, I mean, to me, again, you got people like Ben Carson, the Herman Cains, the Thomas Sowells, the Walter Williams. You have very successful black people out here who have overcome the obstacles in the way. Throw Clarence Thomas in there as well, too. They've proven that, as a black person, you can make it in this country. You can be successful. You can overcome, right? If you just work hard, okay, and you have these types of intangibles, you do these things. And then they go out there and they show people this is the way, this is what I do to be successful at my job. If it somehow offends black folks, if it's offensive in some way, this is always the reaction. But if you're a successful black person and you come out here and you preach victimhood and oppression, oh my God, I'm so oppressed, I'm such a victim, without talking about how the hell did you become successful despite being oppressed and a victim, those people are put on pedestals, even though they're not giving you any type of real substance, okay, or any real advice and tips for how in the world, since you're so oppressed, did you get in the position you're in? And again, this is why, as people, we can't go anywhere. Because the successful black people that, you know, are kind of leading the way for other black folks, you know, we bring them down. We bring them down because they say things that we don't necessarily agree or because they're too close to the white man, right? They're too close to the white man. Or therefore, you know, hey, we don't like that. And it's ridiculous, man. It really is. I don't think Deion Sanders said anything wrong. I think Deion Sanders is telling the truth. And just because the truth is uncomfortable doesn't necessarily mean that it's untrue, right? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.